for tuning into today's video. I am excited about the conversation today. I pulled out my notebook for today's video, so let's go ahead and get started. Today's video is 7 ways to manage your money to save more and spend less. If you're new to my channel, hey, welcome. My name is Coach D, and I love all things planning. Here on my channel, I share pieces of my life with the hope of helping you to balance, grow, and succeed in yours. The topic, as I said, is 7 ways to save more and spend less. I did jot down the 7 tips, and we're going to dive into them today. This video is very similar to some of the tips that I share in my Plan With Me videos for budget planning. Budget planning is my absolute favorite. I enjoy all things finances. More like money, because I was never big on math, but I've always had a keen inclination for ways to manage budgets and to steward finance as well. Both of my degrees, my undergraduate degree and my graduate degree, are in the area of finance, and my career, my full-time day job, as some would say, is in corporate finance. It's actually a financial role within the tech space, but I handle the budgets and the financials for my group. As you can tell, I know a lot about ways to manage money, how to review budgets, and how to ensure the budget aligns to the goals. So let's talk about those 7 tips. Number 1 is to establish a budget. If you don't have a budget for you and your family, I highly encourage you to take the time out to go and create a budget. This will be your guide. It is important that you start with some budget goals, some very clear, some very concise budget goals. To set your goals, take a moment to evaluate where you are currently in terms of your family and your financial landscape. Based on that, set your goals. Once your goals are established, go ahead and set your budget. There will be some elements of your budget that you will need to tie back to your goals so that you can reach them. When you set your goals, make sure that they are SMART goals. For example, in a previous video, I shared that we are not on track to meeting some of the goals that we set. Hindsight being 20/20, as they would say, we were probably too aggressive with the goals that we set. Actually, it was more so me than my husband. He sets better goals sometimes than I do when it comes to budgeting, because I am very ambitious and I have in my mind some things that I would love for us to do that require money, but sometimes I can overshoot them. So that's a lesson to myself to step back and to really understand our financial landscape so that we can weather any storms that may come our way. Tip number 2, have set budget review days and meetings. If it's you and a spouse, it's important to come together and talk about your budget. Don't make decisions in isolation. Make sure things are transparent, or as transparent as possible. It is important to be on one accord and on the same page so that you can save the same amount, or so that you can save together, so that you can pay down debt together. It's important to be on one accord. I'm a spender. I'll admit it. I do like to go shopping. I love trying new foods. I am a foodie. I like to travel, but sometimes I have to reel myself back in, or my husband reels me back in, so that I can stay on top of the goals, because I can get so distracted by a sale at Nordstrom's or distracted by a deal on a travel destination. So make sure that you are meeting with whoever your finances are joined together with so that you can stay on one accord to meet your goals. It's also important to constantly review your budget. Always review what you're spending. If the goal is to spend less, track your spending so that you can ensure that you are indeed spending less. If the goal is to save more, track your savings so that you can indeed save more. Tip number 3, eliminate debt. If you followed me from the beginning of our debt pay down journey, you already know we had accumulated a massive amount of debt just through lifestyle, special circumstances, investments in children's educations and things of that nature. It really tipped us over the edge in terms of our finances, and we ended up in debt. Most of it was self-prescribed suffering, I'll be the first to admit, and my goal is that you'll learn from me so that you won't fall into the same category. It's important to eliminate the debt and to stay out of debt. Debt has or credit cards have interest rates. And oftentimes these days, the interest rates are astronomical. They are absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. So we don't want to pay those monthly fees or annual fees or that debt, that interest rate rather, because that compounds on top of your debt. So for example, if you have an interest rate that's going to charge you $80 a month in additional expense on that credit card, that's $80 a month that you have to come up with out of your pocket to repay that. And if you're only paying the minimums, the debt can increase and just snowball, and you'll be in a never-ending cycle of indebtedness. Now, I'm not anti-credit cards. I will be the first to say I do use credit cards, store credits, and things like that. But the goal is to remain disciplined so that you can pay those things off. I'll come back to the discipline piece in another tip. Tip number 5 is to negotiate and decrease your living expenses. If you are taking the time to budget, you can always track your trends for certain types of expenses. For example, if you notice that your water bill is creeping up, then you can make a mental note to be a better steward of that particular resource. If your energy bill is creeping up, be a better steward of how you are keeping your lights on and what you're doing around your house that's running up your energy bill. Also use it as an opportunity when you are reviewing your debt or reviewing your expenses and setting your budget to negotiate some of the payment terms for maybe your subscription services. See if you can get a lower cable bill if you still have cable. Ask your phone provider if there are any new plans that you can transition onto to save money. Especially if you've been with some of your service providers for many, many years, I'm sure they would hate to see you go. So call up customer service and ask if there's anything they can do to help you lower the payments that you have. Tip number 6, have focus and disciplined buying behavior. That is key. Discipline is key. You can set a goal to save as much as you want. You can set a goal to reduce your expenses as much as you want. But if you lack discipline, you're not going to see results. You can plan all day long. I have my budget planner, but I notice if I don't reference it, if I don't have good discipline, I don't accomplish the goals that I set out because I wasn't fully invested in them. I didn't make a decision in my mind to stick to it no matter what. Case in point, I made some purchases at Nordstrom's this weekend. I had a $50 gift card for coming in and being like a VIP or something like that and doing a personal shopping experience. So it was fantastic. Now, what I should have done was either politely decline or only spent the $50 that came with that particular gift card. So make sure that you make a decision in your mind to be disciplined no matter what. Ensure that you are invested in your goals. When you set those SMART goals, make sure that they are realistic and something that you can relate to and something that you will want to own throughout. Now, for me, thankfully, I did have it to pay, so I wasn't per se going so far off the rails that I was impacting the budget, but still make sure that you are disciplined and that you stick to what you say you are going to do. Number 7, allocate savings and retirement first and live off the rest. Now for me, we manage our budget based on our tithes and our offerings, then our savings that come out automatically, and we live off the difference. That helps us to allocate out our retirement. I allocate out some savings money, some sinking funds. I go ahead and set that money aside and have it automatically draft from my check into a specific bank account. That bank account is set aside and different from the account that we use on a daily basis for living expenses such as groceries, gas, and our bills. When you do that, you shrink yourself, right? You shrink the amount of money that you have to spend, and then you can force yourself to manage your budget to that. For example, I just increased some of the drafts that go out to my retirement account, and that has been helpful because I now see the decreased amount that's going into our bill pay checking account, and we're able to pivot and adjust to accommodate that additional outflow from our money. That's helpful for us. That may be helpful for you, but that is one sure way to save more because the money is already going into the savings and you're living off of the rest. When you do that, don't touch it. Make sure that it's an account that's not so easily linked to where you can spend it. Sometimes we may get a little bit excited that we have some extra money. But if the goal is to save more, then we want to leave it there so that it can grow in interest and so that it can grow with the drafts that are going into it. All right, so that wraps up the 7 tips. Go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know which tip you are going to implement immediately. Like right now, these are simple things, simple steps that you can implement immediately and start seeing results as soon as next month. If you go ahead and leverage some of these strategies, I promise you, you will see results. And this is not something that's so far removed from what anyone can do, regardless of whether you're just setting aside, I don't want to say just, but regardless of whether you're setting aside $5 or $10, is not just $5 or $10, but it is an amount that you are committed to savings above and beyond what you currently are saving. If you don't have savings established now, I highly encourage you to do so. Go ahead and set up some of your emergency funds, set up some sinking funds, especially if you know some expenses are coming. Go ahead and account for them now so that they won't be a surprise later. If you have questions about ways in which you can customize these strategies for you and your family, you can head over to careermomcommunity.com and check out the coaching tab and learn about some of the services that I offer through my business, Career Mom Community. All right, so to wrap it up and recap, the 7 tips were: establish a budget, have a set budget review and financial meeting, eliminate debt, have one main payment mechanism, negotiate and decrease living expenses, focus and discipline your behavior, allocate savings first, and then live off the rest. Now, I think I may have skipped over have one main payment mechanism and just went from eliminating debt to negotiate your living expenses. So let me talk a bit about having one main payment. When you use one bank card or one credit card, it gives you an opportunity to track your expenses more efficiently. It gives you an opportunity to see all of your outflows. If you're using a credit card, of course, the goal is to pay it off at the end of the month so that you're not getting hit with that interest fee. Make sure that you are able to track it so that you know, this is my bucket. I have $500 to live off of, above and beyond paying bills and things of that nature. Once that credit card hits $450, even if it's mid-month, go ahead and shut down shop and figure out your life, right? So make sure that you are monitoring what you are spending and having one or two max ways of paying. That's going to be great. I know PayPal is something that I use a lot. Make sure that you are using things that's going to work for you if you're doing online shopping, because I know sometimes linking it to credit cards, it can be a little suspect depending on how heavy you are in terms of online activity. So those are the 7 tips. Once again, establish a budget, have a set budget review time and meeting, eliminate debt, have one main payment source, negotiate and decrease living expenses, focus on disciplined buying behavior, and allocate money for your savings first. Thanks again for watching this video. I will speak to you in the next one. Happy planning, guys.